So I have my guest in the studio, Patrick Yao Boama. He's a legal practitioner, but also member of parliament for Okaigwe Central. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Good morning.
And congratulations. I've seen you on the list of the deputy ministerial nominees.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And also good morning to you, Adams Mutawakilo, a member of parliament for Damango.
Yep.
And thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. And we know the issue that is gaining currency is the Kintampo waterfall disaster. And I have to start with you, especially what you make of the subject in itself and how tragic it is.
Thank you very much, and good morning to our cherished viewers, and more especially the good people of Damango constituency. I think my first and foremost comment is to extend my condolences to the bereaved family and wish those at the hospital a speedy recovery. This is the second week that we've recorded serious disaster. Last week I was here on Monday, and it was about a road accident that killed almost 19, and this week to another 19 at one spot is something that is very worrying. Apart from that, we have this suicide issue that has been with us for some time. The Kintampo Waterfalls is a place I've visited several times. I've been there with my children. I've been there with my party people, and we plan going there even during the Easter. But yesterday I discussed with them, and they said from what has happened we should suspend it. Because a place you can relax, you can interact, the kids, they have social interaction that takes place, and they provide revenue for the people. So with this happening, it's a very big blow to tourism at that place. And yesterday I watched a video. The whole place was empty, and it will be empty for a long time. Two is, what is it that we needed to have done, or what didn't we do right, and what do we need to do? These are issues we should look at. Yes, taking the cost of the burial and the medical expenses, that is good, but is it enough? I think the first thing we need to do is to investigate as to what happened, why it happened, and more importantly, as there are allegations here and there, even from a chief I listened to, alleging that since after the elections, the invisible forces took over the control of the Kintampo waterfall. We need to go in depth, and that is what has been reiterated by the minority in parliament. They indicated three. One is the cost of the burial and other things, and the cost of medical expenses. Two is investigation to find out what happened, what was not in place. There are allegations that there were no tourist guides to give advice and then to be able to rescue where necessary. And the third one, we indicated that there should be insurance cover for all tourist sites, because tourism is the easiest way of raising revenue. And most countries drive towards tourism because the cost incurred is minimal. Most of them is by nature. But the revenue you drive, if you're able to bring many people, is very high. Dubai is creating a lot just to promote tourism. If you go to Kenya, or because it's cheap revenue. When the people, foreigners come in, or locals, they buy food, they sleep in hotels, and this all help in the development. So I want to urge the government to go beyond just supporting the families of the bereaved and those at the hospital, but truly investigate and get the true cause of the accident that happened. And also not limited to only Kintampo. This is probably the first one. We need to actually take a stock of all our tourist site, whether it is properly safe and what need to be done, so that tomorrow we are here in another area. And my place is a very good tourist destination.
That is Damongo.
Yeah, because we have so many tourist sites there. We have the Larbanga Mystic Stone. We have the Larbanga Ancient Mosque. We have the Moli National Park. And then we have the Mongnore Ecotourism.
All in your constituency?
Yes, about 4. And if you get there, like Moli, you have the guides that will be with you throughout and provide advice. So I want to, as the minority indicated, the government should do serious investigation on this. And where there is the need to whip, they should whip. And people have already provided lists as to what problem made them this. And I'm just reading on the news to a prophet who prophesied that I think we should go out as a government to do more than
we're doing.
And we are monitoring, as and when necessary, we'll draw Ghanaians' attention to the lapses.
Mr. Boama.
Yes, please.
Now, we've been told by the minority that they would want an investigation. And I think that appropriately, the Vice President, during his visit, had given an indication as to what the steps government will take.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you and your cherished viewers and my constituents as well. I'm very sad I was starting to have read online the event at Kintampo. I have been there before. It's a very good place to see some of the beauties of nature. And I was surprised to have heard of this unfortunate event. My heartfelt condolences goes to the families involved, the Kintampo people, those around Wenchi, and the students. First of all, I read also that the students were supposed to have traveled to Mole, not the Kintampo Falls. That is where the investigation must start. I believe the government has been responsible and responsive. The Vice President took steps to visit the site and to assure the families and the good people of Ghana that a full-scale investigation will be carried out. I've read the minority's position on this matter, also calling for an investigation. It's a good call, but I believe the Kintampo Falls falls under the Kintampo Municipal Assembly, and also the Assembly has some responsibility in managing the falls alongside the Ghana Tourist Board. We have a 1% tourism levy that is collected and is supposed to be used in managing some of these tourist sites. It's an eyesore when you go to some of these sites, and I also believe with the investigations that the Vice President has ordered for, the use of that fund must also be looked into. One, whether as a receptive site, all the basic amenities that goes to ensure that a good tourist sites were in place and were fully funded from this fund, whether the fund has also been managed well, and what steps government is taking to ensure that the tourism fund is well kept and managed well, to ensure that all those beautiful sites that my friend has mentioned in Mole could be brought up to international standards, so that such occurrences will not befall this country again, God forbid. So I believe that, one, government has called for a full-scale investigation. I believe the Vice President is an action man and ensure that. Two, the fund that was set up to ensure that all these tourist receptive sites were brought up to international standards, so that people will not travel to London and other places during the vacation and visit the local sites to generate revenue for this sector is well managed and protected. Number three, that the district assembly takes charge of some of these sites that falls within their jurisdiction and ensure that they collaborate effectively with the Ministry of Tourism in promoting some of this. Because all these things, they go viral. They are in the international media. And if a tourist has landed in this country and wants to visit some sites around the Brown region and reads that this is what has happened in Kintampo, you deny traders around their revenue, you deny hoteliers revenue, you deny the town folks some of the benefits that they derive from the visits to the site by tourists. So I believe the investigation must extend to some of these areas and ensure that all the tourist facilities within the country have some measures in place. Two, that there's enough security within the precincts of those tourist facilities to give the tourists the comfort. You recall that sometime last year or so, a beach resort in Côte d'Ivoire, somebody went there with a gun and started shooting and shot people.
Oh, so in 2015?
Yes. Yeah. So I was thinking that the aftermath of this event in Côte d'Ivoire and other places, Kenya and what have you, would have also put in place some measures. Somebody would say this is an act of God or something that you couldn't have prevented, but it calls for action. It calls for the country to set up and know that tourism generates enough revenue, and we must take some necessary steps to ensure that all the tourist sites are well protected. Now you go to hotels and at the entry points, they check your cars with some detectors. But I think more has to be done. If I have a pistol, I have a bomb, the way some of these checks are conducted, I don't think they are even serious. They'll just come to you, Master, we want to open your boot. They go and open your boot. Okay, you can go. What if somebody's car is loaded with
some
bombs and what have you?
Some explosives.
Explosives, let me use the right word. Goes to park the car or leave the car at the car park or somewhere and detonates. So it calls for seriousness if we want to attract tourism or tourists into this country, that they read online and are sure that Ghana is a good tourist location. And these are the measures that are put in place when you go to a restaurant, when you go to the museums, when you go to the castles, when you go to the waterfalls, when you are sleeping in a hotel. There are adequate security measures in place that will assure the tourists to come into this country and have fun, spend good money, so that we could raise enough revenue to develop our country.
But critically, and I was mentioning, for example, when I was on set earlier with Mama V, we don't even have to go to Dubai. You go to Aqua Safari, and some of the things they've done there, try to do some recreation of nature. And if we're able to do some things of the sort in those areas, let's say perhaps we put those on the bursaries or perhaps on the financials of the district or the municipal assemblies, wouldn't it be better for us to attract even local tourists or domestic tourists before we say we're going international? Not even doing the replica of what exists in Dubai, because it was a full desert, a whole desert, and they tried to do some recreation.
We are lucky most of our tourist sites are created by nature, most of them. So it will not take too expensive to make it comfortable and appealing to local tourists. But In tourism, a lot goes in, not just at the site, the roads to the place, availability of accommodation, all count. Let me tell you, with the construction of the Fufluso Damango Solar Road, the moment it started, brought this Zena Lodge, and it's a very good lodge. And let me tell you, every day tourists are trooping to the area. The road was one of the obstacles. And once the road was on course, it started attracting investors into the area. And now you go there, a lot of tourists. This is bringing revenue, not only to the government, but to the local tourist guides that are there. The Larbanga Asian Mosque is visited all the time. The Mystic Stone the same. If you go to the Monori Ecotourism Village, they have what we call, is it river cruise? There is a small river there. You go, they will take you a canoe and cruise. But putting the safety measures is what is most critical. Because one disaster deny you revenue for almost the whole year. Yeah. And security is the most. And therefore, preventing it is what is most important than waiting it to happen. Then you try to see how you can get out of it. So I thought that if, like Kintampo, if they have the tourist guides who are well trained, knowing that there was a storm, they should have acted, that everybody should vacate the waterfall.
That is it, because if they were trained.
Because if they were trained, they would have known that, yes. No. Even you just see the trees there, and sometimes you get scared by the positioning. Yes. So, but because nothing like that was said, I've not heard anywhere where they said there was a warning given that everybody should leave.
Roland, this calls for the meteorological services again to be well equipped. You recall in the last parliament.
But this one we're talking on ground.
You see,
on ground, there's a tour guide.
He mentioned a storm. He mentioned a storm, and they would have the equipment to detect where a storm is coming from. Is that not the case? Yeah, that is why I came in with the Ghana Meteo to be equipped so that they could detect and give early warning signals if there is going to be a storm.
That is early warning signals. But the moment when the storm is about on its way, you experience it. And taking the precautionary measures.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You experience it?
Yes. Once there is a storm, the wind...
You're saying that minutes or let's say half an hour before the...
Even before, you will know that there's something that is happening.
Yes.
It doesn't just happen all of a sudden. And getting the people out of it within are all things you should plan. What are the exit points? What should you do in case within the matter of 5 minutes, there is something about to happen? How do you save as many lives as possible? So it's giving directives. Everybody vacate. And it's not a big place whereby some people might be somewhere, they will not hear anything. This is a waterfall. And if the communication is well planned, you could be communicated. But this one, I believe, even after there was a rain. It rained even up to Damang, our place, my hometown, Damango. Tamale, it rained very heavily. So we need to restructure our tourist sites, get the proper people there. And as he indicated, security is very important because we now live in a world of terrorism. And every small place, they are looking for opportunity to strike. And we are aware in Burkina Faso, there was a terrorist attack.
You mean
there was
Cote d'Ivoire?
Burkina Faso first.
And Cote d'Ivoire.
Then Cote d'Ivoire.
Yes.
Then Ghana, we started with the awareness.
But we seem to have slowed.
After some time, things have gone back to normalcy. And the seriousness we attached to it earlier is dying off. I think we need to beef up the
Roland, Etiwa East, in the eastern region.
Is there waterfall there?
Yeah, my dad's village is called Adaswasi.
Adaswasi.
There's a beautiful waterfall there. and the road to the village is just 5 kilometers. And you can imagine, it's never been done. So it's
the road from which point
from
to Adaswasi? From Enyinem
to Adaswasi. It's just
terrible.
Terrible. And who will go there to such a site? Even if an investor or a businessman wants to develop the place and put in place some tourist receptive site, that small stretch would deny. So I believe the Etua East Assembly and Ministry of Tourism should take it up. And I'm sure there was a time the World Tourism Day in Ghana was even held in that village. And I believe something has got to be done about it.
All right. So
and let me just add, now Moli is Moli National Park.
It's one of the
World Heritage Sites.
It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Yeah, true there. For me, I like going around the country. So at least when you visit areas, you get to see. I think Dubai is nice as well, but if we can do something for ourselves.
I think so.
Dubai is always nice. When you go there, you have a great time. I love their go have great massages. You come. Okay, so Parliament's bribe brigade, new information delaying committee reports. And we know that according to news reports, Deputy Majority Chief Whip Matthew Nyindam says a report by the Joe Gatti committee set up to investigate allegation of bribery against some members of Parliament has been held back due to some new information. And also our own Joseph Opoku Gakpo said according to that report, it had not been, if it had not been for that new information, the report would have been released from the last week. But
yeah, thank you.
You are members of Parliament. You say you don't want to comment on this.
The Speaker has access to, as a matter of respecting the committee, to let the committee do its work. And as such, we shouldn't comment too much into it. So I think that at the end of the day, the report will come out. And if there is no evidence, they should give them the opportunity to appear before them so that the report doesn't seem to leave something out, and therefore some people will feel that they were not treated fairly. So I think it's in the right direction.
Yeah. Roland, this committee has the powers of a high court. So we can't comment in detail on the works of the committee. So there are rules governing the admission of fresh evidence in every matter, for which I believe Mr. Gatti and his committee will take the necessary legal steps to ensure that they give the holder of that evidence the opportunity to meet with the committee, so that at the end of the day, every issue would have been dealt with by the committee to allay the fears of Ghanaians and to restore some confidence in the House and its work. That's all I'll say for now.
So we've closed the subject.
Let's leave it to the committee.
Two of your colleagues, they are in the minority, and you are in the minority. That is for Keta, we have Richard Koshiga, as well as for North Tong, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. They're calling for a cap on the number of ministers perhaps to be appointed in the future by the president. And we know that this is premised on the fact that, well, we've gained currency now, that the president, the sum of the ministers is nominated and subsequently approved by Parliament, and those yet to be also to be approved as a lance badge, sum up to about 110. And that's a big issue for some civil society think tanks, and also for those who comment for the sake of commenting, and so for social commentators as well. Your comment on this, please.
Yeah, the issue of the 110 ministers have gone international. BBC reported rates.
Okay. Yeah, but BBC, they have a correspondent here, so it's normal that if they look something that is done local will go.
That is international.
Now we have, Ghana is a big country now, so we have CNN, we have Bloomberg, we have all of them. So
but what I'm saying is that it has gone international. Is it true or not?
Well, true.
Yes, because the numbers seem is too obolo.
Is it because of
110 is a record in the history of the country. That is first. So that is one. The second one is looking at the perks that goes with a minister or a deputy. But my good brother, congratulations. I've congratulated you already. I know you are competent to handle it. So even if they were choosing 5 deputies, expected you to be part of it.
Thank you.
But the 110 is too much.
It's too below.
First, on the public purse, you cannot do away with expenditure when you're an appointee, because some of them are statutory and they come with the office. So with 110, we should have to expect huge bill. The second one is in respect to the reason given that to be efficient, you must have many more people. And I was wondering whether the ministers are going to do the work of the technocrats, because technocrats they implement. You, the minister or deputy, give policy direction. You don't go to do the pure implementation. So I could see overlaps. And therefore, efficiency and effectiveness, we concentrate more on efficiency alone, that is achieving the target set. But effectiveness goes to how much have you spent to achieve that target. And that brings in the issue of value for money. So when we only say efficiency, yes, if I'm set to achieve a target of 70%, and I spend so much to achieve that 70% without taking to how I minimize costs, then efficiency is defeated. Because at the end of the day, if it is not effective, value for money suffers. So I can see that the appointment, as we said, the minority said, is just a job for the boys. The president had, for the 3rd time, had involved a lot of people to winning and needed to compensate a lot of them. And he thought that by appointing the
So right from 2008, there were backlogs.
Yes. So he had to compensate them.
But is that not looking at the matter superficially? We're looking at the substantive of what he intends to do as a president with his government and how he appoints them and designates various portfolios or responsibilities for them to achieve what he intends to achieve.
That is what I went to the detail and said, first we look at the cost, and matching, does efficiency relate to how many people you appoint to a place? I don't think so. The president of Tanzania, Magufuli, came in, realized that the country was in distress, and therefore he downsized the government. And it's performing.
So you're saying it can be done?
So there's no any correlation between having an efficient government, meaning that if you want to have an efficient government, means that you have to appoint so many ministers. And the Minister for Information made it like it's like you are going for a war. What we need is policy direction and strategy. Let me just take, for example, planting for food and jobs. What is the policy direction? What is the strategy? Without the policy direction and strategy to achieve, you can have
well, the Minister of Agriculture has it.
No, it should be made known.
It should be made known.
No.
Take your time. The government just came in.
No, but there's no policy direction.
When did the government got inaugurated? On the 7th of January.
But famine is just around the corner. We should know the policy.
The rainy season is just about to begin.
Yes. We need the policy direction and the strategy so that it will be made known to Ghanaians as to the direction. And therefore, we will all be driven towards that. So what we need is actually the policy direction and the strategy, not ministers at every point like Agri. We have 5. Minister of Agri, Minister of State in charge of Agri, and 3 deputies. I don't think it will lead to efficiency.
At the end of the day, President Akufo Addo gave an interview and said, summarily, he feels that what he's come to meet in terms of the problems that confront the country are enormous. And so this team will be the best team, that will help him to execute what his objectives and his agenda is. But his views really are at variance to what civil society is saying, what the main commentaries have been in the media and also on social media.
Yeah, Roland, thank you. That makes democracy beautiful. At least nobody has gone to pick a gun to fight in the street. The president campaigned on a certain program and manifesto, and the good people of this country bought into his manifesto and programs and gave him a resounding victory last December. The president, sitting down, has thought through his programs and believes that to achieve these objectives within the 4-year mandate, this is the size of government I need. You may have your views, but at the end of the 4 years, the president will have to account to the good people of this country that, yes, you criticize me for appointing 110 ministers and deputy ministers and ministers of state, but this is what I've achieved at the end of the 4-year period. One, I came to meet an economy with debt to GDP of 74%. I came to meet an economy where debt stock had risen to 122 billion. I came to meet an economy where youth and unemployment was very high, for which I've appointed a minister responsible for trade to ensure that there's a good work program to ensure that unemployment is reduced. I came to inherit an economy where sole sourcing was the order of the day, for which I have to ensure that the public procurement or the procurement regime is restructured effectively. Yes, you have a PPA, you have a board, but the president will want to go further to ensure that the right steps are taken in place to ensure that we don't pay over 14 billion as interest on loans and other facilities that we took, which for which, if value for money that my brother is talking about was properly followed. So civil society, social commentators, and other well-meaning Ghanaians have expressed their views and concern. The minority has criticized the president's government, but I believe that the president has his vision, he has his program, he has his ambitions and objectives to follow. The president is going to roll out a free SHS program in September. This is the first of its kind, for which he needs a good team headed by the Minister of Education, Professor Yanka, and Dr. Brichum and his team, to ensure that all the gray areas within the program are covered. The president can come back within a year or two and say that I set out to achieve these objectives within 4 years, but within the first 2 years, I've been able to achieve them. Then the programs are running in terms of agriculture, in terms of industry, in terms of education, in terms of tourism, in terms of railway development, and I'm happy with it, and I'm downsizing my government. It is possible. Water and sanitation is a new ministry that the president has created, and I'm grateful to him for sending me there to assist Honorable Addo. It's a new area, and I believe you know the area very well. SDG 6 talks about water and sanitation, and it's an area that the whole world is looking at, for which I must say that the president was very smart in creating a new ministry to ensure that water and sanitation issues are given a very special attention under his government and watch. For example, the good people of Damango do not have water. If you read the budget of the president this year, Damango Water Project, which was part of the last administration's program, was captured in the budget to be continued and commenced. Now, I'm sure Honorable Mutakilu is happy that this government did not leave that program on the shelves. Sanitation issue, a sanitation fund, 4,500 people to be recruited to ensure that our cities and districts are clean. If a lot of activities are going to take place within the water and sanitation sector. In the area of waste management, waste to energy, medical recycling, e-waste, and what have you. It's a new area that any serious government will attract the needed investment from the private sector to ensure that we do not have a filthy country where tourists will not visit. So, yes, you may have all the rights and the free will to criticize, but the president, in his view and his vision, I believe will be vindicated within the shortest possible time, especially if you want to develop a sector like the railway sector, which is a private sector-led area where people will be investing billions of dollars. Are you going to say that you are leaving that to a department? People out there want to see some seriousness. They want to interface with government at a certain level. And the president has put Honorable Gatti to ensure that his vision within that sector is achieved. So, my brother, rest assured.
And that is why they said the end justify the means.
I like...
if you allow me to finish, I don't know if you want to take over from the host. I don't know.
I thought you had ended myself.
I thought he directed the question to me. That's why I was coming.
Okay, so he hasn't.
Within the time frame that the good people of Ghana voted for President Akufo Addo, we should give him the space
to do whatever he wants.
Not to do whatever he wants, to do what is legally within the Constitution, to ensure that his objectives to propel this country to another level is achieved.
Thank you very much.
And so the criticism is that you, on the side of, or the other side of the political divide, and even civil society and the think tanks, you're putting the cart before the horse.
No. We believe that it will put enough burden on the public purse. But let me just be brief on, yes, debt to GDP, 74. I don't think it's debt. I think it's investment. And I can now understand why last year we spent about 7.6 billion on capital expenditure. They have come and reduced it to 7.1. So that means some roads will suffer that are supposed to be constructed will suffer.
It's a waste-cutting measure.
It's not a waste-cutting measure. You are reducing capital expenditure. That is one. Two, sole sourcing. My brother didn't indicate whether the procurement law permits it. If it permits it, let me come. There is a cap on what percentage you can do sole sourcing. Value for money. It is during President Mohammed's time we have crown agents.
You are lying.
No, I'm coming.
It's not true. Crown agents have been around.
Let me finish.
For a long time. Don't say that is President Mohammed. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Please, let me finish my point. I'm not saying this is President Mohammed's time. Crown agents.
He didn't allow you to complete.
He didn't allow me to complete.
Okay.
That Parliament is given the mandate to do what we call financial, commercial agreements. Previously, when a loan comes to Parliament and we approve the loan for a road, that ends it. They go straight to execute. During President Mohammed's time, when the loan agreement comes, the commercial agreement will follow, and the commercial agreements list the bills of quantities, and the crown agents give their value for money judgment. It comes back to Parliament.
So you're saying that's the norm now?
That is the norm. When there is an agreement for a loan, you pass the loan. That is normal. But it doesn't mean that straight away you go to do that. No. There will be a commercial agreement.
Or will come through the plenary. We'll go to the
plenary. To come to the committee, we screen it, write a report, bring it to the plenary. discuss it. So sometimes I wonder, the same discussion we had, and accept that Crown agents have done their work, then we come out and say that sole sourcing is that. I believe
but
there is a cap within which some of them don't come. And there's always a point whereby some public officers will tend to, politicians will tend to.
Yeah, because I wanted to add that, for example, the Smarties deal.
That's what I'm saying.
That one is within a certain range. I think less than 5 million.
That is
within the 5 million range, that could be manipulated.
That is why I'm indicating
if
that
you have that a number of times, let's say 10 times happening simultaneously in various ministry departments and agencies.
That is where
that results in a bulk of.
That is where I said that the system, the internal control systems, should be strengthened. The internal control systems should be strengthened, because if the internal control system were strengthened, I don't think we'll get to that point. And they cannot tell me they are not coming to do any sole sourcing.
They said they'll limit it.
What is the limitation? It's within a certain percentage. Are you getting my point? It's within a certain percentage. So if you fall within that percentage, it's still acceptable. Are you getting my point? And then I know they will also cap what will go to cabinet and what they can do at the ministerial level, the ministry's level. It is.
That's the quantum of transaction.
Yes, when you turn everything to be like every sole sourcing, there is rot in it. Then you can end it, don't do it. And they cannot stop it. So it is very, very important that we look at those things in this. In respect to the ministries, nobody says, oh, the ministries this. We are talking of the number of people you are appointing. The Minister of Railway, we had it before. The minister was Professor, I can't remember the name. Akufo. What was the impact? We had Minister of Aviation before, and it only supervised the disposal of Ghana Airways.
Not true.
It only tells us the impact it had.
Not true.
It tells us the impact. Because that was the time they said the Minister of Aviation to ensure that Ghana Airways was sold or collapsed completely. So it is not the ministry that you have that tells you that it will be more efficient. It is about the policy and the strategy. The policy and the strategy. That is
how you
what
supervise
so
and strengthening the systems.
The policy. Let the people understand what you want to do, the strategy you want to undertake it. So this thing is not today. We have Minister
I love this your bit. More like public policy.
It's not because Minister of Railways, Minister of Aviation, Minister of Transport means that efficiency. No.
Yeah.
We've had it before, and we didn't see any concrete results.
You wanted to make a comment, but
sole sourcing under the law, I think sections 47 or something.
Of the procurement act.
For example, if you are going to print your currency, you don't have to open it so wide because it's a security issue. It's a security issue. There are certain specialized areas that you have to go for sole sourcing. What has mass branding got to do with sole sourcing? What has the construction of major roads got to do with sole sourcing? It is when you bring in competition that you can.
You're saying that when you want to brand a bus, you can't
How can you sole source?
Why not?
Is it a specialized area?
Well,
it's not.
Branding is a specialized field.
Number two.
Or you don't think it is?
It's not.
It's not.
There are a lot of people who do it. And you know the corruption that came out of it, for which a minister had to resign. You know what happened. So sole sourcing is not illegal, but to the extent that you procure most of your things through a sole sourcing arrangement, go and take the report of the Public Procurement Authority. You will then understand the MPP's problems with sole sourcing. You just go and take it. Sector by sector. Procurement that were sole sourced. And you understand why the MPP feels that process was abused. It was abused. and we have the right to talk about it. My brother was also talking about the ministers of state again, and the fact that Professor Akufo, the Accra-Tema Railway, when Professor Mills commissioned it, who had constructed it? Was it not under Professor Akufo? In 2009, Accra-Tema, and it's true. So why?
But precisely his point. He says you don't need a minister to construct Accra.
He said that
Railway.
Professor Akufo at
No, he said impact.
What
The
impact?
impact.
Impact Accra-Tema. And you are saying your impact was Kojo Krom in second D. So what are you talking about?
You are saying it's the same.
I'm not saying the same, but if you are saying impact, you did something. Somebody has done something. So don't say that they didn't do anything. And let me tell you, the sale of Ghana Airways did not start with the setting up of an aviation ministry. That is also wrong. That is also wrong. It started way back in 2005. That ministry was not there. So please,
no,
get your facts right.
No, I just want, please, I want you to understand that it's not the creation of ministries that brings about efficiency.
Yeah, you
that
can,
is
you
what
have your
I'm driving at.
You have your view, but I'm saying that the president has made a promise to the good people of Ghana, and for that matter, has placed people in certain focal areas or points to ensure that he achieves the objectives within that area. He wants to do a railway line from Takoradi to Kumasi and Paga. He needs a hands-on person to ensure that this is done, that he can pick a telephone.
He wants to do it from Takoradi to
Kumasi, the Western Railway, continue. Eastern Railway line. I know we even
do all that in 4 years.
Yes, we approved of a facility during the last administration for the Akosombo stretch. These are private investments that are coming in, for which you need a good supervisor to ensure that those programs are well tailored. And
so the ministers are supervisors?
You
more
work,
or less.
More or less. And you coordinate with your agencies.
You couldn't have had a head of a department under a certain ministry?
I don't think so. I don't think so. That is my view. So you may have your views on those appointments, but I think they are very important.
I don't have a view. I'm asking.
I'm talking about Muta Akilo. For example, you can't say that Damongo Water Project is not important.
That is what I wanted to come to.
Because?
That is what I wanted to come to.
Because you know that there was a facility.
You want to tell me started under your mama?
No, he said it, that we initiated, they are continuing.
And we'll continue it. Same way we initiated projects under
and we
President
came and continued.
Yeah, so governance is a continuous process and it's protected by the Constitution.
But
so
you made a comment before, and then after he came in. The thing about you need perhaps a certain visibility for the aesthetic indicators or your partners or your multilateral agencies, etc., to know that you are committed to a certain policy direction. And so you have a certain ministerial portfolio that gives a certain sense of direction to an outward person. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Something of the sort?
Something of the sort.
But why do you need a minister for that?
When you go to other jurisdictions, for example, I'll give you 2 examples.
Please do.
Vince Cable used to be the Minister for Business Development. He goes out there, speaks to the investor community, the business community, understands their concerns, brings it to cabinet, ensures that those issues are dealt with. For example, Tesco and other UK companies didn't used to operate in India. Through negotiations and what have you, they've started. Number 2, we have an offshore legislation in the Bank of Ghana Amendment Act, where we could have an offshore bank and ensure that we receive free money from investors and use it.
I think currently Barclays has one also.
It was started under President Akufo, and when NDC came, they said, "Oh, this is going to be used for money laundering and 419. 60% of the investment into India originates from a small island called Mauritius. 60%. And these are monies from serious people that goes through an offshore banking regime. That was the vision of Akufo. And President Akufo Addo was part of President Akufo's government and has indicated in his budget, which was read by the finance minister, that this is going to commence. We are going to ensure that this activity gets started, because this is how you get free capital into your economy to expand and develop the private sector to generate the jobs that we are talking about. That is why we have a business development minister. So if you don't understand the reasoning behind some of these appointments, you sit down and say that, oh, there's no sense in it, it's too much. You look at the numbers. You look at the price of everything, but the value of nothing.
I like that quote.
Yeah.
But you still need a minister for all that.
I think he made a statement with respect to Damango Water Project.
We'll pass that.
And that is very important, because I know the people of Damango might be, most of them will be watching us.
Yeah, they do.
And they will understand that it's a process. We got to some point and they are continuing.
You just want to say that it was started by the Mahama-led NDC
I just want them to understand.
Fantastic.
Two,
that's one.
he said there are certain loans that are tied loans. That means that you don't have the option to do open competitive tendering.
Example.
Like Flagstaff House construction. It was provided by
the Indian
government.
It was a grant.
I'm coming. It was
a grant.
If whether grant
I think a grant of 35 or 30 million.
It was tied to a contractor. You didn't open tender. You came to,
Shaponji
if it is a
Parliament.
grant, you don't come to Parliament for approval.
Especially when government wants to borrow to support.
That is counterpart funding.
Yes. So
that is counterpart funding.
Yes.
So I want to let, some of them are tied loans or grant if you want to. Because if it is a grant, you don't come to Parliament. So some of them are tied.
You are compelled.
That you don't say, okay, give me the money, but I will decide who to do it. No. So in any case, you can't do away with sole sourcing. Because if it is that, you can't say no.
But that's not the point of the argument.
No, it must go through sole sourcing. He said that sometimes you can be constructing a road and it will not be open tender. And I just want us to understand that some of the facilities are tight facilities. Yes, the construction of railway too is a laudable idea. We all support. Do we need a Minister of Railways with a minister and deputies to do?
Well, you have to attract people. If you have to attract investors. For example, I remember
in the 2000 manifesto, it was there. Construct from here to
we all agree that was an overambitious one.
No, Minister of Railway was appointed.
Let's keep our discussion.
No, I just want us to understand that it's not splitting ministries to various, like transport into aviation, transport, and railway. That will automatically translate to efficiency. That is what I want to drive at. That's why I'm just setting those few scenarios for us to look at. So most important for us is that streamline the government, have a strategy, have a policy, and implement.
I see. Okay. So at the end of the day, we know that the president hopes to achieve with all this. And the president has said, well, it's almost like the president is trying to adopt Yentiobia.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Let's end the conversation. At the end of the day,
it's not correct.
We know the president has been attending an Africa CEO forum in Geneva. He's been saying that he has a great vision for Ghana. I don't know whether you've been following the reports from there.
Yes.
And he seems to have a very big vision for Ghana when it comes to that.
Yeah, the fundamentals of that is flawed.
Why?
African CEO summit, and it's not held in Africa.
Well,
it's at Geneva.
But you need investment. There's a reason why it's there.
This is a very populist.
And Geneva. And
African CEO.
And you know that in Switzerland.
Do you know the Geneva, what it will go along? president visit, several people visit, hotels are occupied. So the capital that you first come to Africa is going to Geneva.
So you're saying the objective and the intent
fundamental.
already is wrong?
That is the fundamental.
Okay.
Because people are going to spend millions of dollars will be spent in attending the summit. Instead of it benefiting Africa as an example that Africa actually needs it, we are giving it to Geneva.
Point made.
That is it. That is the first one. Yes, it is good that I would have wished it is Africa, assuming it's in Africa.
Or let's say South Africa.
Yes,
or in Ghana.
or Ghana.
Or Lagos.
Many people would have trooped in and our people will get some money. Yeah, but it's good to have very good vision for the country, not only the president, all of us. The vision that we built into the government, the country, tell the level of patriotism that we have. Because if the president alone has the vision and we don't buy into it, then at the end of the day, it cannot be achieved. And as the cost of achieving the vision, I don't think the president should be given a blank check to just fill in. I don't mean expenditure, decisions. So that whatever decision you take, oh, Ghanaians voted for him, therefore whatever decision he takes. No, this is the implementation aspect. What he sold to Ghanaians were his ideas. Maybe people didn't have the opportunity to look at the detailed implementation strategies. So the moment you're rolling it out, as Ghanaians, we are supposed to guide you. We are supposed to criticize you constructively where you're going wrong. Because at the end of the day, if you go and crash with Ghana, all of us die.
Well, at the end of the day also, you don't expect the president to be spelling out whatever strategy there is by daily communication.
That is why I say in the course of implementation.
Because, for example, within these interactions, he's also said government was not going to compete with the private sector. And we know what happened during the Mahama.
What is the meaning of competition?
Oh, for example, we go and raise bonds locally.
We just raised local bond 1.1 billion.
Ozaso.
Yeah, we just raised it 1.1 billion.
And then,
so are you not crowding out?
We're not going to crowd out the private sector.
No, that is what I'm saying. If you say you will not compete with the private sector, the first point is investment. The private sector go to borrow and invest. But if you now go and compete, as the said government were competing with private sectors and therefore raising the cost of borrowing, they've just borrowed 1.1 billion Ghana cedis domestically.
From where?
From the domestic market. It was in the news at 21% interest rate.
Let's deal with.
But you know about that?
No,
ask the finance minister. I think you know about it. It's been reported widely.
It's been reported widely.
Okay.
Muntakilu is being a populist this
morning. No.
Let's go to.
But what he said for
Africa CEOs,
for anti-imperialists, anti-colonialists.
Let's be serious. The president went to Geneva, and if you read a story, so the president, Nana Addo Akufo, held a roundtable meeting with some selected chief executive officers of leading African and international companies. So if it was just an African CEO summit, perhaps your argument.
Look, read the heading. What was it?
You don't read the heading and
no.
Form an opinion. I'm reading the full.
It's actually the Africa CEO Forum.
Forum.
Listen.
That is the.
He said they should have been held in Africa.
Listen. Let's be honest and objective to our viewers. You can have a forum of African CEOs and international companies. That is the heart of the meeting. For example, the CEOs of these companies, they go to Geneva to borrow from some of the banks there. Don't lose sight of the fact that a company like Vitol, headquartered in Geneva, is worth 300 billion. So if an African CEO wants to do business with a company that is 10 times the size of the economy of Ghana, would it be unfair for that company CEO or CEOs who do business with banks in Geneva and Zurich to have a forum there to partner these companies and have a strategy to bring some of the investment into this part. It's not demeaning. We should accept the fact that we don't have the muscle and we must collaborate and ensure that we attract the right investment into our fold. You can be populist, you can speak all the language that people...
Or the imperialist
language. But the fact is that we are behind and we must...
And we need the help.
And we need help and we must always attract the right investment by attending the right summits, having the right contacts. We shouldn't be shy of the fact that we are behind. What has led to that? We are part of it. We shouldn't blame anybody out there. Our attitudes has led to some of the decisions that we've taken and where we are. We must accept that, collaborate with those who are ahead of us, and ensure that we develop our country. We shouldn't say that, oh, by having an African summit or CEO summit with international companies in Geneva is not good. What if you hold the summit in Ghana or in Nigeria and nobody attends and you don't strike the right accords and connections to bring the necessary investment here? What would you have achieved?
Well, there's an African phrase that says that...
What about can you have exercise patience? Because when you were talking, I didn't comment. We always have a World Economic Forum in Davos. We always have an African session during the World Economic Forum in Davos. That's
it's also in Switzerland.
What is wrong with that? President Mahama used to attend it.
No.
He said it should be in Africa.
Why did President Mahama attend the Davos summit?
Don't relate Davos to African CEOs.
Please.
The Davos is a world summit.
But it also has CEOs from Africa attended. Is that not the case?
Dangote and the rest.
Yes. So is it demeaning? We need to feel free and be open-hearted and tell the whole world that we are not where we are supposed to be and we need the right investment. So I applaud the president.
Congratulations once again to you, Patrick Yabuama. Patrick Yabuama is a member of parliament for Okaikwe Central. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Good always having you in the studio.
Anytime.
And Adams Mutawakilu is a member of parliament for Damango. Fortunately, project or an intention of the John Mahama-led NDC government is being continued by the Akufo-Addo-led MPP government.
Thank you. And I'm grateful for that.
Great water project.
Great water
It's in the budget, 2017.
Yeah,
2017.
by the Akufo-Addo administration.
Who initiated for you to...
So that'll be it for AM Talk this morning.